Thank you, Dr. Sharma. My name is Tim Patterson. I'm from Fuel Economy Solution. We market combustion products, and simply put, they work. We're in a transition situation with, how can I put it, going to an almost zero carbon economy, but I don't believe that it will eventually be a zero because everything has a footprint, even when we're making the wind, the solar, etc. So I'm just going to go straight through into some initiatives that are underway in the industry and we're participating in, but also things that we think should be happening and we propose we should be getting on with. We're 3 times global award winners, mainly around sustainability and global green future leadership. We have combustion technology that, how can I put it, combustion chamber catalyst is the best way to describe it by combustive action. If you're in the refinery business, you'd call it a secondary post-refinery additive. USI 1000 is a liquid, USI 2000 is a lower grade solid powder, which is for open boilers, for low grade waste like biomass, crumbed rubber, etc. And then USI 3000 is high purity. So you dose that 99.9% pure into with acetone or gasoline as a solute into large capacity fuel supply like day tanks on ships. What do we offer? Direct sale or private label. So if you're a refiner out there looking at this online, or if you're in the room and you have decisions to make on which way you go with B10 or B20 on your forthcoming fuel blends for the green transition, we can do private label too. Scale is not a problem. We have 80% export credit finance from the UK government. And as you know, we are open for business. We have left the European Union, and we're very keen to do business all over the world in much greater numbers than we have done before. Industry initiatives to make a difference. So what I'm going to do is basically run through a little bit about UN Global Compact. I think that would be a benefit to a lot of companies. The role of government in the market economy. Where does the government interface or interject to create the innovation point beyond which a market becomes able to start and be competitive? The IMO sulfur fuels cap, that's really quite key. The marine fuels changed on the 1st of January 2020, and it's not a clear picture. And there's challenges all over the globe depending on the fuel supply and the intermittency of that. Fleet owners, depending on the size and shape of your vessels, have got different challenges, and so I'll touch on that. Global low emission zones, we have problems with real world enforcement. Changing the script. We always seem to think there's this good and bad, good cop, bad cop, and that green is great and that hydrocarbons are bad. We need to get out of that mentality. The UN recognizing that a country's energy security is a mass expression of sustainable development goal. And it's a right for a country to have energy security as opposed to being oppressed by a neighbor either economically or militarily as a result of economic weakness. Green finance for transformation technology. We've seen that coal is receiving bad investment levels and people are pulling out, but transformation technologies are going to take us to the next place. So 10 to 20 years ROI for a transformation proposal, that's actually quite sensible. And even though Macquarie and other big global investors may or may not want to get involved in coal, transformation is certainly a place where they can get a return, and industry needs their help. So we offer, as I say, private label, but the UN Global Compact program, basically the SDGs were developed prior to the Paris Accord. Joining members make annual commitments, they maintain annual records of future plans and their intentions, and basically if they're following it properly, they will be realigning their business models in order to fulfill those obligations. Serving the needs of humanity whilst also improving your commercial viability and meeting the SDGs has got to be a good thing. If you go to this website, unglobalcompact.org, you can read about the 10 principles, the SDGs, how to participate, take action, and engage locally with your business, whichever country you're in. The Indian Oil Corporation joined on the 21st of April 2001, and GAIL, India Limited, 23rd of May 2011. So if some of the biggest companies in India can do this, the rest of the South and the ASEAN nations especially, and the developing emissions control markets, I highly suggest that you get on board with UN Global Compact. 20 years anniversary this coming year. There's a load of reports online that you can get from the website. Again, these would be quite handy for your HR and sustainability primes to go through and consider. This is a pioneer. Klaus-Stig Patterson received an award in 2016. He worked as part of a team, a small team, developing the UN SDGs from 2011 to 2014. Klaus is an amazing guy. He's an inspirational man. And I had the privilege of introducing him when I was asked to host the morning session at World CSR Day in Mumbai last year. Dr. Bhatia is the founder of the World CSR Congress, and Klaus is an inspirational person, to put it mildly. As a result of having to do the work on his bio before the event, I understood what he did, and I realigned my company's principles and solution sets so that we now work within the SDGs, and we are aiming our solutions in priority of order to impact the most people as quickly as possible. Marine, mining, power, land, transport. Marine is obviously all of it, inland waterway, open water, short sea shipping. Mining, open and underground. Power, diesel, waste to energy. They use gasoline for the cement process in Morocco, so that there too. And also coal. We're doing some clean coal testing in Katowice next month. We're trying to reduce the carbon footprint, ladies and gentlemen. We're not saying that coal is good. We know it needs to stop. But in the meantime, those energy security conscious countries that need to burn it till they can transform, we're here to make it as clean as humanly possible. Land transport also covers road and rail. In the UK, we have the 66 loco model. DB Schenker's owned about 350 of them. Very, very expensive to run on Notch 8. I'm not even sure I think it's been disabled now. Agricultural land transport, also crucial, especially in rural nations like India. So we have an integrated approach, multi-sector. Many companies are huge corporations that deal in all these four sectors. And basically, if you look at combustion efficiency in each of those areas, hydrocarbon cleanliness is key to making operational cost savings before you can afford your solar, before you can afford your wind, before you can afford your high-tech solutions that are waiting there or they're being developed but they're not quite there yet for baseload, etc. So the role of government in the market economy. If you set a low benchmark, it's not very innovative, it's not going to drive competition. If we were to go to a government in the South-South and we showed them what we could achieve, let's say we shocked them and said we could take a Euro 2 engine, run ultra-low sulfur diesel, less than 10 ppm through it, that engine would be made in 1998, you wouldn't expect it to be able to burn clean at Euro 6 emission standards. But if you could get CO and NOx down to Euro 6 standards in a 1998 old vehicle, that would be quite handy to know. So that's the sort of thing that we know we can do with our product, and we're looking to demonstrate that to refiners so that the old vehicles don't emit the same sort of emissions as they normally do, black smoke, etc., that we're familiar with. The role of government is you set the benchmark really high, and then private sector has to follow. They have to meet that standard. As long as the regulator knows that it's possible, they're not going to stand and promote any company in particular, but when they know it's possible, they need to be strong and set the benchmark very high. There's one key issue that the EU did not achieve, and that's central validation of aftermarket technologies. We tried through a variety of routes to get them to centrally validate third-party technologies. 40% of commercial assets that are on repair and maintenance contracts with OEMs. Now, I don't blame the OEMs for not wanting anything like a product like ours that's aftermarket in their assets when they're maintaining them, because they don't know us. We could have snake oil. We don't, but they don't know us. So the OEMs, as a risk management strategy, will cancel any repair and maintenance contract with aftermarket technology in play, even if it works, ladies and gentlemen. So they're only looking after their interests and shareholders, so that's fine. The problem is government not centrally validating a technology to underwrite the liability of the process. OEMs would then be comfortable and able to use those aftermarket technologies that were type approved centrally. The IMO sulfur fuel cap has caused all sorts of problems. We have small vessel fleets, especially in ASEAN, where we have a big inter-island tourist economies like Indonesia. And the problem with that is you might use up to a third of a deck space to put a scrubber on a small ship. £5 million ship, £3 million of lost revenue and scrubber retrofit. So it's not worth doing. So these smaller fleets are actually using the 0.5 or the 0.3% fuels that are available. In Indonesia in particular, the mandated fuel is 0.3, but the problem with that is it's about $866 a tonne. So an MGO at 0.5 is $390. So there's a big disparity between what they're allowed to burn, unless they can be helped to burn fuel more cleanly. And that then gives them a commercial advantage. So the sulfur fuels cap is opportunity, but also risk. Big ships that still use HFO, there is room for a scrubber. If you reduce an emission signature from 3.5% to 2%, you may change a Panamax retrofit from $2 million to $700,000. The footprint would be 5 by 5 meters by 11 meters normally for the scrubber. It would potentially go down to 3 by 3 meters with a 5 meter high stack. So there are cost savings to combustion efficiency, and there's some ships that are yet to be fitted with scrubbers, but it's the bigger fleets. Low emission zones. We had some low emission zones set up in Europe. They're not actually linked to central government. They're run by the mayors of each city, and in the UK we have London. We're devolving power to other cities, Manchester, etc., but it'll be centrally run by our Department for Environment, Farming and Rural Affairs. Devolved LEZ policy would allow individual cities to make their own choices. If you have on-the-road real-world emissions testing out the tailpipe, and you give, especially commercial vehicles, trucks, buses, just 24 hours to comply, a fuel-borne catalyst, which currently isn't eligible as a type-approved technology for low emission zones in the UK and Europe, because the authorities think that it would be potentially able to be put into the engine the day before a test and fool everybody for the next year. The problem is a fuel-borne catalyst takes 500 to 1,000 litres to condition an engine. And with a truck or a bus, it's 2,000 litres or more. So 24-hour notice, there's no time to dose an engine artificially. And if you say a minimum of 3 tests a year, 24 hours notice, anyone in a low emission zone that gets a ticket to go to the test centre, the punitive fine should be high enough to stop them from failing to use a fuel-borne catalyst as their choice. That means you can police it and it's real. There wouldn't have been an emission scandal if we were testing on the road from day one, instead of 1 year type-approved seal systems only by the authorities. This is a test I mentioned earlier, Euro 2, Euro 3 and Euro 4 engines being tested in Tallinn University in Estonia. 12 to 16% fuel savings. You'd expect improvement in efficiency, of course, with combustion of old engines and low sulfur fuel. But the emissions compliance of Euro 6 was the surprise. So we think that high sulfur engines and low sulfur fuel are our sweet spot, and we think the market can take advantage of that to comply with older vehicles inside low emission zones. We don't need to say it's got to be 3-year-old vehicles only. It could be that a 2-year-old vehicle, poorly maintained, could emit worse emissions, even though on paper the engine is meant to be cleaner. The human national right to energy security. A country is formed of population of humans, and the SDGs are there to help humankind. Countries have got normally millions of people, small countries obviously not. But energy security is therefore a human right, ladies and gentlemen. Now I'm not saying that a country can selfishly, just for the sake of profit, go and make money and pollute the rest of the world while everyone is doing a tough job of trying to get the carbon down. However, it is a bit of a problem if you don't pay any attention to the rights of the humans. So coal-based economies, oil-based, gas-based economies, they need time to transform, and they should be allowed to do so without being penalised. And the World Bank can play a big role on this. I'll be done in 5 seconds. 2 minutes. Oh, that's very generous. Thank you. I thought it was now. So, changing the script. Good cop, bad cop. When we talk about mineral availability, mining, 130 kilograms of copper goes into an electric bus. Poland has one of the 4th biggest copper producers on the planet, and they are the largest exporter of electric buses to the rest of the world. So the hydrocarbon economy is fueling, excuse the pun, the green economy transformation. It's a holistic model, ladies and gentlemen. There's no divergent mentalities here. So changing the script, wind turbines made from steel, coking coal. We don't have an alternative for making steel at the moment. British government have just authorised a mine in the north of England for 3,000 million tonnes. So it's a big commitment, and they realise that the imports are going to cost them more money than doing it themselves. So we need material revolution. 90% of the world's cement comes from coal, 70% of the steel, 50% of the aluminium, and just over 40% of the energy. So how do we do this? 200 kilograms of coal to make a ton of cement. I think it's about a tenth of that through a Bessemer converter with recycled steel. So, you know, how do we square that round? China used 2.4 of the 4 billion tons of cement in the 2013 records. How do we get alternatives to this? We need a materials revolution. So this is where I predict in the next 10 to 20 years, not in the next 40, that we need investment on the green finance side. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, he's the vice president of the UAE and the ruler of Dubai. Green leadership through the World Green Economy Organization that he launched. Youth empowerment, innovation and green finance, in particular green finance. My closing observation, ladies and gentlemen, is that we need an asset category of a medium-term green transformation technology investment. That's 10 to 20 years. And that's all we need to get to the next place. And we can transform that starting now. Thank you.